For decades, humanity had looked to the stars with a mix of curiosity and caution. Telescopes, satellites, and probes had shown glimpses of what lay beyond their own solar system, but nothing could prepare them for the reality of the Galactic Empire. The Empire was vast, with fleets so enormous that they could blot out planets in their path, and technologies so advanced that Earth's greatest minds could only guess at their limits. Yet instead of feeling defeated, humans felt determined. Even while the Empire dismissed them as a minor, unimportant planet, Earth quietly began its work. In laboratories hidden deep beneath mountains and in orbital facilities that circled the planet like silent guardians, scientists and engineers poured their knowledge into prototypes that could challenge the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. These were not ordinary spacecraft. They were designs born from desperation, creativity, and the refusal to be overlooked. Every detail was scrutinized. Every system was tested until it could withstand conditions that no human had ever faced. The warnings went unheeded. Earth's transmissions to the Empire intended to alert them to the prototypes were met with arrogance. Official communications called the projects childish experiments and dismissed the warnings with condescending words. Military analysts in the Empire laughed at the idea that a primitive planet could produce something capable of threatening their fleets. The humans on Earth, however, were not deterred. They knew that the Empire's confidence could be its greatest weakness. History had shown that arrogance often led to downfall. On Earth, the development of the prototypes was more than a military project. It was a unifying mission. Scientists from different countries, engineers with diverse backgrounds, and strategic thinkers who had spent lifetimes studying the cosmos worked together as one. There was no room for politics or rivalry. Every breakthrough was celebrated, every failure analyzed. Human perseverance became a rhythm, a heartbeat that echoed through the research stations, in the underground factories, and aboard orbital platforms. Among the many challenges faced by the teams, one stood above the rest: speed. The Empire's ships could travel at velocities that made communication delays feel like lifetimes. To even engage them, humans had to think in ways that defied conventional physics. Engineers experimented with energy compression, new propulsion materials, and gravitic manipulation. The aim was not merely to match the Empire's ships, but to outmaneuver them entirely. Every trial, whether it failed spectacularly or succeeded in small increments, taught the team something new. Another challenge was weaponry. Earth could not rely on brute force alone. They needed precision, adaptability, and the ability to strike before the Empire even realized what had happened. Their weapons were designed to learn and adapt. Algorithms monitored enemy movements and recalculated trajectories in real time. Each shot could anticipate evasive maneuvers, each strike designed to cripple rather than merely damage. It was a different kind of warfare, one that relied on intelligence, foresight, and the human will to survive. But perhaps the most remarkable part of the project was the people. Ordinary men and women who had grown up under skies filled with stars were now shaping humanity's future. They worked through exhaustion, through setbacks, and through the quiet fear that their efforts might be too little, too late. Yet every time a prototype passed a test, a wave of hope spread through the teams. They knew that their work had purpose. They understood that the eyes of the galaxy might never see their labor until the day it mattered most. Life on Earth continued around them, mostly unaware of the silent war being waged in laboratories and orbital platforms. Cities bustled, schools operated, families lived their everyday lives, while underground humanity's most brilliant minds built the future. It was a delicate balance, living as though the Empire was far away while preparing for a confrontation that could happen at any moment. The scientists often wondered if the people above could ever truly comprehend the scale of what was happening. And yet they did not need recognition. They only needed results. The prototypes themselves became a symbol of human ingenuity. Each one was carefully named and catalogued, though only a few people knew their true capabilities. There were ships designed to vanish from sensors, capable of moving faster than light without detection. Others could withstand extreme conditions, from the vacuum of deep space to the gravitational pull of massive stars. Some could deploy advanced shields. Others carried weapons that could cut through the toughest armor with astonishing precision. It was a fleet designed not for show but for survival, each ship a testament to human resolve. Earth's leaders understood the stakes. They could not rely on diplomacy alone, nor could they hope the Empire would respect their warnings. The galaxy had seen planets rise and fall, and in every case the weak were crushed without hesitation. If Earth was to survive, it needed more than hope. It needed a plan that combined intelligence, technology, and courage. Strategic sessions were held in secret chambers, simulations ran continuously, and contingency plans were drawn for every possible scenario. Every citizen of Earth was, in a way, a part of this grand preparation, though few realized it. Yet, despite the secrecy, there were moments of tension that reminded everyone that the Empire's attention could turn at any moment. Occasionally, patrols would pass near human colonies, scanning, probing, and testing. The people working on the prototypes watched from their hidden stations, hearts pounding, knowing that discovery could come suddenly. But each patrol passed without incident, reinforcing a dangerous sense of confidence in the Empire. They were arrogant. They were careless. And that arrogance, the humans knew, could be exploited. As the years passed, the prototypes grew in number and capability. Each test flight added new data. Each simulation refined strategies for engagement. The engineers and scientists developed a deep understanding of not just technology, but the psychology of the Empire itself. They knew that the Empire's fleets relied on intimidation, and the assumption that no primitive world could resist them. Humanity would have to prove them wrong, decisively and unforgettably. At night, when the workstations fell silent and the stars shone through the observation decks, the team would sometimes gather and imagine what it would be like when the time finally came. They pictured the Empire's fleets, massive and imposing, facing a single human warship emerging from the darkness of space, striking with precision and vanishing before a counterattack could be launched. It was not just a dream. It was a plan, meticulously crafted over decades. Even as the Empire ignored them, Earth remained vigilant. Every signal was monitored, every Imperial movement logged, every anomaly analyzed. They were patient because they had to be. They were determined because they had no other choice. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unforgiving, and yet humanity had found a way to carve its place among the stars. And so, life continued in quiet tension. Scientists refined their prototypes. Engineers tested systems to their limits, and strategists planned for the day when humanity's patience and preparation would finally collide with the arrogance of a galactic power that believed Earth was nothing. That day, the people working in silence knew would change everything. For now, the Empire remained unaware. They saw only a small blue planet spinning in the vast emptiness of space, a world full of life but supposedly incapable of posing a threat. But below the surface, in hidden factories, in orbital stations, and in secret command rooms, humanity waited. The prototypes were ready, the crews trained, and the determination unshakable. The Empire might laugh today, but when the first warship emerged, there would be no mistaking the truth. Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored. The stars themselves seemed to watch as humanity prepared for its moment. The prototype warship, the culmination of decades of innovation, would one day slip through the darkness, a single arrow of human ingenuity poised to strike at the heart of an empire that had never taken them seriously. Every calculation, every test, every sleepless night was building toward that moment, and when it came, the galaxy would remember that Earth, a planet once dismissed as insignificant, had quietly become a force to be reckoned with. Life in space had always been a balance of careful observation and quiet preparation for humanity. While Earth's prototypes were being perfected, the Galactic Empire's fleets continued their patrols near human-colonized systems. They were massive, imposing, and relentless, a constant reminder of the power that humanity had to reckon with. To the Empire, Earth was still a distant, insignificant planet, and they treated it with casual disregard. But humans were watching, learning, and preparing to act when the time was right. The Empire's patrols were more than just passes through space. They were exercises in intimidation. Human colonies on the edge of explored systems often reported strange maneuvers, flashing lights, and unusual energy readings. Imperial ships scanned, probed, and occasionally fired warning shots at satellites or remote mining stations. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. The Empire was asserting dominance and testing boundaries. On Earth, the warnings were analyzed in laboratories and command centers, each incident carefully logged. Every movement of the Empire's fleets became data, each maneuver a lesson for when the confrontation finally came. Humans had learned to interpret patterns in what the Empire considered random activity. Engineers and analysts noticed subtle details, The timing of patrols, the spacing of ships, the response to anomalies. It was a game of observation and deduction. Each prototype being developed on Earth was tested against these patterns. Virtual simulations recreated encounters with the Empire's fleet, adjusting for the human understanding of enemy behavior. The prototypes were not only designed for speed and firepower, they were designed to think and react, just like their creators. While the Empire continued its shows of strength, arrogance ran through its ranks like a virus. Commanders assumed that Earth's technology could not pose a real threat. Reports from patrols described the planet's defenses as primitive, the fleets as fragile, and the humans as predictable. Some officers even mocked the planet in official communications, joking about how amusing it was that a species still reliant on manual labor and limited technology dared to develop anything near a fleet of interstellar warships. The humans who read these intercepted messages did not laugh. They remembered every word, every insult, and every underestimate. They knew that arrogance could be exploited. On Earth, the human teams behind the prototypes used this arrogance to their advantage. Knowing that the Empire underestimated them meant that their first strike could be as precise and unexpected as it needed to be. Every test flight, every simulation, and every engineering breakthrough was designed not just to perfect technology, but to prepare for the moment when the Empire would finally realize that Earth could fight back. Scientists worked alongside military strategists, discussing contingencies, refining tactics, and ensuring that no prototype would fail when it mattered most. Despite the growing confidence in the prototypes, there was a sense of urgency. The Empire's patrols were unpredictable. Sometimes they would linger near critical points in human space. Sometimes they would vanish for months, only to appear in greater numbers. The human teams never stopped watching. Satellites relayed constant streams of data. Deep space sensors measured energy signatures, and encrypted communications kept everyone informed. Even small movements of an Imperial ship could hint at larger maneuvers. Every detail counted, and humans had trained themselves to notice what others might miss. The Empire, for all its power, had weaknesses. Their reliance on intimidation often led to predictable patterns. Their confidence sometimes blinded them to anomalies that could have been warnings. And their bureaucracy slowed decision-making, giving humans precious time to prepare. Earth's teams understood this and planned meticulously. Each prototype was built to exploit these weaknesses: speed to avoid direct confrontation, weapons to strike at critical points, and cloaking technologies to appear and disappear like ghosts. Humans had turned observation into an art and preparation into a weapon. Life on Earth continued, mostly unaware of the looming danger. Cities, farms, and schools operated as usual. People went about their lives, rarely thinking about the massive fleets passing nearby or the hidden laboratories designing warships that could challenge an empire. Those who did know about the work often felt a strange mix of awe and fear. The humans behind the prototypes carried the weight of the planet's survival, working long hours in silence, knowing that any misstep could be catastrophic. They were ordinary people doing extraordinary work, bound together by a sense of duty that transcended politics, religion, or nationality. Communication between Earth and its colonies was another critical element. The Empire's patrols often disrupted signals, and humans had to develop secure methods for exchanging information. Teams created encrypted channels, relay stations, and emergency protocols to ensure that every piece of intelligence reached the right hands. It was a complex system, tested over years of trial and error, and it allowed Earth to maintain situational awareness, even in the face of an overwhelming presence in nearby space. Every colony became part of the larger strategy, whether its inhabitants realized it or not. One of the most important lessons humans learned during this time was patience. The Empire would not always reveal its intentions openly. Sometimes their fleets would appear distant and seemingly uninterested, and humans had to resist the temptation to act prematurely. Acting too soon could expose the prototypes, risking failure before they were ready. It was a delicate balance, waiting for the right moment while continuing to improve and refine capabilities. The humans who understood this lived under constant tension, knowing that their vigilance might never be noticed until it mattered most. Despite the tension, moments of hope and inspiration emerged. Each successful test flight of a prototype was a triumph, not just for technology but for humanity itself. Engineers would watch the ships maneuver flawlessly in simulation, Scientists would confirm energy outputs beyond expected limits, and strategists would calculate potential outcomes of battles with confidence. Each success reinforced the belief that Earth could withstand the Empire, not through brute force alone but through ingenuity, coordination, and determination. There were also small victories in human observation. Minor skirmishes between Imperial patrols and other civilizations often provided insights. Humans studied these interactions closely, noting tactics, vulnerabilities, and strategies that could later be applied against the Empire itself. Every bit of knowledge gained, every lesson learned from a distant conflict became part of the larger preparation. Humans had turned themselves into careful students of the galaxy, using intelligence and observation as weapons just as powerful as any prototype. As the years passed, the tension between preparation and reality grew. The Empire remained dismissive, yet its fleets grew more active, testing boundaries, probing defenses, and sending messages of intimidation. Humans continued to watch, waiting for the moment when observation would become action. It was a tense equilibrium, a quiet battle of patience and foresight, and humanity knew that when the time came, they had to act decisively. The arrogance of the Empire became a source of both caution and confidence. They underestimated the humans, and this underestimation created opportunities. Engineers and scientists knew that the Empire's focus on intimidation meant they would never expect a precise surgical strike from a seemingly insignificant planet. Humans had spent decades preparing for this moment, and they would not waste it. Every prototype, every crew member, every strategy was part of a single plan, to demonstrate to the Empire that Earth was not a planet to be ignored. While the Empire continued its provocations, the humans of Earth remained calm, focused, and diligent. The work on prototypes never stopped. Engineers tested propulsion systems late into the night. Scientists refined targeting algorithms in quiet labs. Strategists simulated countless scenarios, predicting every possible Imperial response. Humans had learned that the galaxy was unpredictable, and the only way to survive was to anticipate, adapt, and strike with precision when the moment arrived. And that moment, though still unseen, drew closer every day. The Empire's fleets, confident in their dominance, continued to roam the nearby sectors. Earth, small and seemingly defenseless, continued to prepare. Hidden laboratories, orbital platforms, and underground facilities became crucibles of human ingenuity. Every failure, every adjustment, every success built toward the moment when the first prototype warship would emerge from the shadows, silent and unstoppable. For now, life on Earth moved forward as if nothing were amiss. Cities bustled, schools taught children, and people dreamed under the stars. But beneath the surface, humanity was quietly preparing for a confrontation that could determine the fate of their planet. Every calculation, every test, every sleepless night was a promise to themselves and to the generations to come, that they would not be dismissed, they would not be conquered, and they would prove to the galaxy that Earth could not be ignored. Humans watched the stars with patience and determination, waiting for the right time. They had learned to read the Empire's movements like a language, to find opportunity in arrogance, and to turn observation into action. The prototypes, sleek and silent, waited in their hangars and orbital docks, ready to carry the dreams of an E. The day finally arrived when years of preparation, testing, and quiet anticipation converged into a single moment. Humanity had been patient, learning, observing, and refining their prototypes while the Galactic Empire moved through nearby space, confident and unchallenged. The Empire still believed that Earth was insignificant, that its ships were primitive, and that its people could not threaten the vast fleets that had dominated star systems for centuries. But humans had waited for this moment with a mixture of hope, precision, and quiet determination. Deep in the orbital docks above Earth, the first fully operational warship prototype was ready. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its sleek surface shimmered under the light of nearby stars, its engines capable of velocities that defied conventional understanding. The ship was not just a product of human engineering. It was a culmination of decades of intelligence, strategy, and human ingenuity. Every weapon, every system, and every sensor had been carefully tested to ensure that it would perform flawlessly when deployed. The crews who would operate the ship were calm, their nerves steady despite the gravity of what they were about to do. These were humans who had spent years training for this moment, mastering every system, memorizing every protocol, and simulating countless scenarios. They had seen the Empire's fleets in observation footage countless times, noting patterns, habits, and weaknesses. They were ready, not just with technology but with the determination and courage that defined humanity. When the signal came, it was executed with surgical precision. The warship, cloaked and invisible to sensors, slipped past the first layer of the Empire's patrols as if it were a ghost in the void. The human team monitored every movement of the enemy fleet, watching as ships continued their patrols, unaware that a single vessel from Earth had entered their midst. The prototype's cloaking technology was flawless, rendering it undetectable to even the most advanced Imperial sensors. Then, the first strike was launched. It was not chaotic or indiscriminate. It was calculated, precise, and devastating. A single focused attack disabled the command ship of the fleet, cutting off coordination and leaving the remaining vessels in confusion. The Empire, confident in its numbers and power, had not anticipated such precision. Within moments, systems were disrupted across multiple ships. Weapons were neutralized and communications were thrown into chaos. Humans watched from orbit, eyes fixed on displays that showed every movement of the enemy fleet. Every calculation they had made over decades was now coming to life. The Empire's reaction was immediate, though chaotic. Commanders attempted to regroup, issuing orders that arrived too late or conflicted with one another. Fleet formations broke apart under the precision strikes, and smaller ships were disabled before they could respond. The human warship moved with a combination of speed, strategy, and adaptability, striking where the enemy was weakest and vanishing before counterattacks could be launched. It was a display of control and coordination that no Imperial fleet had ever encountered. As the battle unfolded, the human crews remained calm, monitoring every system, anticipating every Imperial response. They were aware that their actions could provoke greater fleets if detected, yet they remained focused on the mission. Every maneuver, every strike, and every evasive action had been planned and simulated countless times. The warship was more than a machine. It was a vessel guided by human intellect, courage, and the will to survive. Meanwhile, on Earth, people watched the events unfold through encrypted communications. Scientists, engineers, and strategists observed the prototype in action, holding their breath with each successful strike. It was a moment of vindication for decades of effort, a confirmation that their work had been worth every sleepless night, every risk, and every sacrifice. The pride in humanity's capability was tempered by the knowledge that this was only the beginning, that the Empire's response could escalate at any moment. The Empire, for all its power, struggled to adapt. Their fleets had faced resistance before, but never with the precision and unpredictability of a human warship. Their usual tactics of intimidation and overwhelming force were ineffective. The humans had learned to exploit weaknesses, strike at critical points, and evade counterattacks. For the first time, the Empire faced a foe that challenged its assumptions, forcing it to react rather than dictate the course of action. Despite the chaos, the human crews remained disciplined. They were aware of the importance of every decision, understanding that a single mistake could jeopardize the entire operation. Sensors scanned constantly. Weapon systems recalculated trajectories, and navigation computers adjusted for minute changes in velocity and positioning. It was a ballet of technology and human intellect, performed at a scale that had never before been attempted in interstellar conflict. One of the most remarkable aspects of the prototype was its adaptability. Enemy maneuvers that would have overwhelmed conventional ships were countered with algorithms that learned in real time, predicting movements and adjusting tactics. The warship could alter its speed, trajectory, and attack patterns within moments, making it nearly impossible for the Empire to anticipate its actions. It was as if the ship itself understood the battle, a testament to the collaboration of human ingenuity and advanced technology. As the engagement continued, the Empire's fleet suffered catastrophic losses. Ships that had once projected invincibility were reduced to drifting wreckage. Energy cores exploded, weapon systems malfunctioned, and command structures crumbled. The humans watched carefully, maintaining their discipline and focus, aware that their actions were shaping the perception of Earth across the galaxy. They were proving that one well-prepared, intelligent, and determined species could challenge even the mightiest of empires. The psychological impact was as significant as the physical destruction. The Empire's officers and commanders were stunned by the precision, speed, and effectiveness of the attack. Reports that had once dismissed Earth as insignificant now trembled with uncertainty. Confidence turned to confusion, arrogance to caution. The humans, hidden in their warship, had demonstrated a level of strategy and capability that could not be ignored. For the first time, the Empire was forced to reconsider its assumptions about the planet it had long mocked. Even as the battle raged, the human crews remained mindful of collateral effects. They avoided civilian areas and focused solely on military targets, understanding that the future of Earth depended not just on victory, but on restraint and precision. Every strike was measured, every movement deliberate. Humanity was showing that intelligence and morality could coexist even in the harshest of conflicts, and that their fight was not born of hatred but of survival and necessity. The battle lasted for hours, though to those on Earth and aboard the warship, it felt like a carefully choreographed series of critical moments. Each decision mattered, every calculation influenced the outcome, and when the final strike disabled the last of the Empire's command ships in the sector, a tense silence settled over both human and Imperial forces. The humans had achieved what many thought impossible. A single prototype had decimated a fleet that had dominated the galaxy for centuries. In the aftermath, the human crews assessed their systems, repaired minor damages, and prepared for any potential counterattacks. They knew that the Empire would not respond lightly, and that further engagements were inevitable. Yet in that moment, there was a profound sense of accomplishment. Decades of preparation, secrecy, and ingenuity had culminated in a decisive demonstration of human capability. Earth had proven that it could defend itself, that it could innovate, and that it could challenge even the most powerful adversaries in the galaxy. The Empire, shaken to its core, began reassessing its strategies. Confidence in the superiority of their fleets was replaced with caution. Commanders debated how to respond, while political factions within the Empire questioned the wisdom of dismissing a planet that had demonstrated such technological prowess. Humans, meanwhile, remained vigilant. They continued to monitor the Empire's movements, aware that the first engagement was only the beginning of a much larger conflict. For Earth, the victory was a turning point. The prototype warship had not only demonstrated the effectiveness of human technology, but had also shown the value of patience, strategy, and disciplined preparation. The battle became a symbol, a story of ingenuity overcoming arrogance, of determination meeting overwhelming power. Humanity had learned that careful planning, observation, and collaboration could turn even the smallest players in the galaxy into formidable forces. As the warship returned to orbit, its crew reflected on the implications of their success. They knew that the galaxy had changed in that moment, that the Empire's perception of Earth would never be the same. But they also knew that vigilance could not cease. The prototype had proven its worth, but the Empire was vast and its resources immense. Humans had won a critical battle, but the war for recognition, respect, and survival was only beginning. And so the first warship, a single vessel of human ingenuity, had done what no one expected. It had struck fear into the heart of the Galactic Empire, shown the power of precision and strategy, and reminded the galaxy that Earth was no longer a planet to be dismissed. Humanity had entered a new era, the shockwave from the battle spread across the galaxy faster than anyone could have imagined. For centuries, the Galactic Empire had ruled its sectors with confidence, commanding fleets and colonies that obeyed without question. Their power was assumed, their reach thought limitless, but the sudden, precise, and devastating strike by a single human warship shattered that assumption. The galaxy, from distant colonies to the inner sanctums of the Empire, was forced to reconsider the presence of Earth. On Earth, the atmosphere was a mixture of cautious relief and tense anticipation. Scientists, engineers, and strategists watched reports from deep space probes and communications relays. Every fragment of data from the battle was analyzed repeatedly. No one celebrated too loudly. The victory was undeniable, but humans knew better than to underestimate the Empire. They had struck a blow, but the warship's triumph was only the beginning of a much larger story. Earth's leaders and the crews of the prototypes worked tirelessly to ensure that every success could be replicated if necessary. The Empire's reaction was immediate, chaotic, and filled with disbelief. Commanders argued with one another, blaming miscommunication, incompetence, or the unprecedented unpredictability of the humans. Some factions called for retaliation, while others urged caution, worried that further aggression could lead to catastrophic losses. The arrogance that had defined the Empire for centuries was shaken, replaced by a grudging respect for a species it had long dismissed as insignificant. Reports that once labeled Earth as primitive were revised, now describing a planet capable of building warships that could destroy entire fleets. Across the colonies, whispers of the human success spread quickly. Planets that had suffered under Imperial rule began to see Earth in a new light. The humans, once considered a minor player in the Galactic Order, were now a symbol of possibility. Their success inspired other civilizations to consider resistance, to believe that the Empire was not invincible. Earth had not only struck a military blow but had also ignited a spark of hope throughout the galaxy. Back in orbit, the crews of the prototype warship monitored the aftermath with careful attention. Sensors picked up fragments of Imperial fleet movement as they retreated in disarray. Communications were intercepted, revealing confusion, fear, and strategic debates. Every detail mattered. The humans were aware that the Empire would not ignore this lesson for long. It was a moment of proof, yes, but also a moment of warning. Earth's defenses, technology, and strategies would continue to be tested as the Empire recalibrated its approach. The human teams on Earth continued their work, expanding the fleet of prototypes, refining strategies, and preparing for inevitable retaliation. Each success in the battle had provided new data, new insights, and new confidence. Engineers developed improved propulsion systems, scientists enhanced weapon targeting, and strategists planned for multiple potential scenarios. Every system was upgraded, every protocol adjusted, ensuring that Earth could respond to any Imperial action with speed, precision, and efficiency. Meanwhile, the political implications of the victory were significant. Leaders on Earth understood that the galaxy would watch their actions closely. Diplomats began to reach out to neutral systems and former colonies, sending subtle messages that Earth had the capability to protect itself and its allies. The prototype warship had done more than destroy enemy ships. It had rewritten the perception of Earth. Humans were no longer a minor civilization. They were a power that demanded recognition, caution, and respect. The Empire struggled to come to terms with the human demonstration. Confidence among fleet commanders wavered. Generals debated strategies in closed chambers, analyzing every detail of the battle to understand how a single prototype could achieve what seemed impossible. Some saw the humans as a fleeting anomaly, a one-time event, while others began to question the very assumptions that had guided Imperial expansion for centuries. The galaxy was witnessing the first real challenge to the Empire's dominance, and it was coming from a planet it had long ignored. Humanity, however, did not underestimate the significance of what had just occurred. They understood that the Empire's pride and power were vast, and that retaliation was inevitable. The prototype warship had succeeded because of careful planning, technology, and human determination, but they also knew that further engagement would require more ships, more crews, and more strategies. Earth's scientists and strategists worked in constant collaboration, ensuring that the next engagement would be just as decisive, if not more so. On Earth itself, life continued with a sense of quiet purpose. Cities, schools, and farms operated normally, but the people involved in the prototypes were acutely aware of the larger stakes. Families, engineers, and scientists understood that their work had not only protected their planet, but had also reshaped the balance of power across the galaxy. Every test flight, every calibration, every strategic simulation was part of a growing effort to secure the future of humanity. The psychological impact on the Empire was profound. Officers who had once dismissed Earth as irrelevant now faced the reality that their assumptions were flawed. Battles that had been won by numbers and intimidation could now be challenged by intelligence, innovation, and precise execution. The humans had shown that even a single well-prepared ship could alter the outcome of a confrontation, forcing the Empire to reconsider how it would engage with Earth in the future. Across human colonies, the victory fostered a sense of pride and unity. Communities that had once felt distant and vulnerable were now reassured by the knowledge that Earth could protect them. Scientists, engineers, and strategists who had dedicated their lives to the prototypes were recognized, not with awards or titles, but with the quiet satisfaction of knowing that their efforts had made a tangible difference. Humanity had proved that cooperation, patience, and intelligence could overcome even the most daunting challenges. The prototype warship itself became a symbol of human capability. Its performance in battle was studied, analyzed, and emulated in simulations for future ships. Engineers worked to replicate its success across a fleet of vessels, ensuring that Earth would have multiple prototypes capable of challenging Imperial forces. Every system that had proven effective was refined, enhanced, and duplicated. Humanity was preparing not just for retaliation, but for a long-term strategy that would secure its place in the galaxy. Meanwhile, the Empire's fleets began cautious retreats, re-evaluating strategies and waiting to rebuild confidence. Commanders communicated with hesitation, wary of underestimating a species that had already demonstrated formidable power. Debates raged within Imperial halls, with some advocating for immediate retaliation and others urging patience. The arrogance that had allowed them to ignore Earth had been replaced by uncertainty and calculation. For the first time, a planet once dismissed as insignificant had forced the Empire to think carefully about every move. Humans on Earth continued to monitor these developments closely. Every Imperial communication, every fleet movement, and every change in strategy was analyzed for patterns. Strategists and engineers worked together to anticipate possible responses, ensuring that humanity would not be caught off guard. The lesson of the first engagement was clear. Preparation, intelligence, and adaptability were as critical as firepower itself. As weeks turned into months, the ripple effects of the warship's success continued to be felt. Neutral civilizations and minor colonies began to reconsider their own positions in the galaxy. Some quietly sought alliances with Earth, recognizing that a species capable of challenging the Empire might offer protection or cooperation. Others simply observed from a distance, studying the humans with a mix of curiosity and caution. Earth's influence had grown, not through conquest, but through the undeniable demonstration of capability. Back in orbit, the crews of the prototype warship conducted repairs, recalibrations, and additional training exercises. They reviewed every aspect of the battle, identifying areas for improvement and reinforcing what had worked perfectly. These routines were carried out not out of fear but out of understanding. Every improvement, every adjustment, and every enhancement increased the likelihood of continued success in a galaxy that was watching closely. The victory also had a profound effect on the morale of humanity. Citizens on Earth and across its colonies began to see themselves differently. No longer were they a distant, powerless civilization. They were capable, resourceful, and resilient. The prototype warship had not only demonstrated technology and strategy, but had inspired confidence, unity, and a sense of purpose that would carry humanity through the challenges to come. The Empire, for its part, began to adjust its approach. Fleets were reinforced, new patrols were planned, and intelligence gathering intensified. Yet despite these efforts, the memory of the warship's precision strike remained vivid. Commanders were wary, calculating, and cautious. Every movement of human ships was now taken seriously, and the arrogance that had characterized centuries of imperial rule was tempered by the knowledge that Earth could not be ignored. For humans, the lessons of the battle were clear. Success required preparation, intelligence, and unity. The prototype warship had proven its worth, but the galaxy remained vast and unpredictable. Engineers continued refining. The galaxy had changed and Earth knew it. The first prototype warship had struck with precision and shattered the Empire's confidence, leaving fleets in disarray and command structures shaken. But humans understood that victory was not simply measured in destroyed ships or disrupted communications. The real challenge was maintaining that momentum, ensuring that Earth's place in the galaxy was recognized, respected, and protected. Every scientist, engineer, strategist, and crew member was keenly aware that the work was far from over. On Earth, preparations continued with renewed urgency. Engineers refined the warship's systems, upgrading propulsion, energy shielding, and weaponry. Every new improvement was tested rigorously, ensuring that the next generation of prototypes could outperform even the most unexpected challenges. Crews trained tirelessly, simulating battles that might never come, learning to coordinate flawlessly under pressure. The people of Earth had learned patience, discipline, and unity, and these qualities were now being strengthened with every passing day. Across the galaxy, the Empire's recovery was slow and cautious. The arrogance that had once defined its officers was replaced by a wary respect for human ingenuity. Fleets were rebuilt, new strategies devised, and intelligence operations intensified. Yet, the memory of a single human warship striking with devastating precision remained a haunting example of the consequences of underestimating Earth. The Empire's leaders began to approach the planet differently, their communications and patrols more measured, their movements calculated. Humans were no longer a curiosity, they were a force to be reckoned with. The humans themselves did not act recklessly. They understood the power of restraint and the importance of strategic advantage. Earth had shown its capability, but further provocation could lead to devastating consequences. The prototype warships were not just tools of destruction, they were symbols of intelligence, preparation, and courage. The crews were trained to think, to adapt, and to make decisions that reflected humanity's values as well as its survival instincts. Every action taken was deliberate, measured, and aimed at preserving Earth while maintaining an upper hand in the galaxy. Diplomatic channels began to open, cautiously at first, between Earth and other civilizations who had observed the events. Some were curious, some cautious, and some hopeful. They recognized that humanity had demonstrated not just military capability, but innovation, intelligence, and a willingness to act decisively when necessary. Earth's influence began to grow, not through conquest but through a demonstration of competence and moral authority. The planet had shifted from being a distant, ignored world to a central player whose decisions carried weight across multiple systems. Within Earth's own colonies, morale was high. People who had once felt distant or powerless now took pride in their connection to a planet capable of shaping the galaxy. Scientists and engineers were celebrated quietly, not with ceremony, but with the knowledge that their work had tangible, transformative impact. Crews who piloted the prototype warships were seen as heroes, not because of fame, but because of their courage, skill, and dedication. Every individual who contributed to the effort, from data analysts to system technicians, knew that they were part of something far greater than themselves. The prototype warship itself remained in constant readiness. Engineers continued to analyze and upgrade its systems, drawing from lessons learned in the first engagement. Scientists developed new technologies, some still experimental, aimed at ensuring that the human fleet could respond to any potential threat. Strategists ran simulations for countless possible scenarios, ensuring that Earth could act decisively under pressure. Every detail mattered. Humanity understood that in the galaxy, preparation and intelligence were just as critical as courage and strength. The Empire, meanwhile, faced an internal struggle. Some factions advocated for immediate retaliation, arguing that Earth must be punished to restore imperial authority. Others urged caution, pointing out that the humans had demonstrated extraordinary skill, and that direct confrontation could result in heavy losses. The once unified confidence of the Empire was fractured, replaced by debate, calculation, and the uneasy awareness that they could no longer predict the actions of a planet they had long dismissed. Humans had rewritten the assumptions that had guided centuries of imperial strategy. Despite the tension, humans did not act out of fear or malice. They maintained a watchful presence, prepared for any imperial response, but always with a focus on defense, precision, and measured action. Their message to the galaxy was clear. Earth would protect itself, it would innovate, and it would act decisively when necessary, but it would not strike without cause. This combination of strength and restraint became the hallmark of humanity's emerging role in galactic affairs. Earth's influence continued to grow. Other civilizations, observing the prototype warship's success, began to approach the planet cautiously. Some sought collaboration, recognizing that humans could offer protection, technology, or strategic insight. Others simply observed, studying human tactics, technology, and decision-making with curiosity. Humanity had become a reference point in the galaxy, a species whose actions now mattered to allies and adversaries alike. On a more personal level, the people involved in the creation, maintenance, and operation of the prototypes felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Their long hours, sleepless nights, and tireless dedication had culminated in a moment that reshaped the galaxy. The warship was more than a machine. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, resilience, and courage. It represented the collaboration of countless minds, each contributing a piece of knowledge, creativity, or skill that made the impossible possible. As Earth continued to prepare for the future, the human teams remained vigilant. Intelligence networks were strengthened. Early warning systems expanded and simulations of potential Imperial responses ran continuously. Every prototype, every strategy, and every plan was refined with the knowledge that the galaxy was watching, and that the Empire's pride could still lead to unforeseen challenges. Humans had learned that patience, adaptability, and foresight were their greatest strengths. The first warship's legacy extended beyond battle reports and strategic analysis. It became a symbol for humanity's potential, inspiring generations to think creatively, act courageously, and collaborate for the common good. Scientists, engineers, and strategists understood that technology alone was not enough. It was the combination of human intellect, determination, and moral judgment that had made the victory possible. The prototype warship was a reflection of all that humanity had achieved, and all that it could achieve in the future. Across the Empire, confidence slowly returned, but it was tempered by caution. Commanders were careful, fleets were reinforced, and strategies revised. Yet the awareness of human capability lingered. Earth had demonstrated that even a single well-prepared vessel could disrupt an entire fleet, forcing reconsideration of every assumption about the planet's technology and resolve. Humanity's message was clear. They would not be ignored, underestimated, or dismissed again. In the months that followed, humans expanded their fleet of prototypes, integrating lessons learned from the first battle. Each new ship incorporated enhancements in speed, targeting, defense, and adaptability. Crews trained extensively, learning to operate as a cohesive unit, capable of coordinated action under intense pressure. Earth's preparation was methodical, deliberate, and continuous, ensuring that the planet could respond to any potential threat with intelligence, precision, and unity. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. The Empire, once unquestioned in its dominance, now approached interactions with caution. Other civilizations took notice, recalculating alliances, trade agreements, and security protocols. Earth, once considered a minor player, had proven that it could challenge even the most powerful forces in the galaxy. Its reputation grew not through conquest, but through innovation, strategic brilliance, and disciplined execution. For humans, the greatest achievement was not the destruction of enemy ships nor the disruption of Imperial fleets. It was the realization that intelligence, courage, and collaboration could change the course of history. Humanity had proven that preparation, ingenuity, and moral judgment were forces as powerful as any weapon. The galaxy had been forced to acknowledge the planet's capability, and in doing so, humanity had secured a position of respect, influence, and readiness for whatever challenges lay ahead. As Earth looked to the stars, it did so with confidence and determination. The prototype warship stood ready, the crews trained and vigilant, and the scientists and engineers continued to innovate. The planet had sent a message to the galaxy. Humanity would defend itself, it would innovate, and it would act decisively when necessary. But it would do so with intelligence, restraint, and a focus on survival and progress. The legacy of the first warship would endure, inspiring generations of humans to think beyond fear, to collaborate, and to pursue solutions that combined intellect with courage. The galaxy had witnessed the birth of a new balance of power, one in which Earth could no longer be ignored, and one in which humanity's ingenuity and determination would shape the future for years to come. Humanity had entered a new era, not by seeking dominance but by proving that its CI